that I changed over and over again. When you read the poem, it looks like just simple words there. But I guarantee you, I worked on that thing. I felt like an architect drawing that poem. And the original version of the poem said, "Take the treasure chest, but leave my bones and go in peace," or something like that. But then I got well and I ruined that story. but it's something that Salinger's book, Catcher in the Rye, a very celebrated book by everybody thought was a wonderful author. And I said, after I read that book, I said, if this is a good book, I can do that. And so I sat down. Some of my stories I had in my mind, like the story My War for Me. I wrote that a couple of years ago. But I sat down, and 6 weeks later, I'd written that book. And I'm very proud of it. It's kind of personal. I didn't think anybody would want it. And my first issues was 1,000 copies because I didn't know what I was going to do with all these books. But it turned out that people liked it, and two weeks later I published another 3,200 copies.
Well, not only is it a gripping autobiography, a memoir, as you say, but it does turn out the title comes from what you say has been your kind of guiding principle in your life, the thrill of the chase. And you had a crisis, an illness crisis, and a conversation with Ralph Lauren. Tell me how those two things led to the important part of this book.
Well, it seems like all the lines crossed at the same time. In 1988, I was diagnosed with what everybody thought was terminal cancer. I lost a kidney. My doctors told me I had a 20% chance of living 3 years. And about that same time, Ralph Lauren, who had been an old client of mine and friend for many years, was in my house and looking at some things that I had. And he said, "I want to buy that." And I said, "Ralph, I don't want to sell it." He said, "Well, you can't take it with you." And I said, "Well, Ralph, I can't take it with me. I'm not going to go."
Yeah.
And we laughed about that. But I started thinking about that afterwards, and I got sick. And, if you got to go, I decided I was going to take some of it with me. That's when I decided to buy that beautiful treasure chest. I gave $25,000 for the treasure chest. And I started filling it up with wonderful things, gold coins and gold nuggets and pre-Columbian gold and necklaces. And
he said that you put a lot of people on a bold and exciting adventure, and yourself. And how are you enjoying watching all of this adventure around you?
"Oh, tell me not in mournful numbers. Life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are never what they seem." I'm enjoying it, yeah. But then J.D. Salinger died. And Diane Sawyer's talking about how wonderful he was, that he wrote books and put them in a vault so nobody could see them. And I told myself, this is my kind of guy. So I went down and I bought Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. And I thought I was going to like that book because I'd never heard of the guy. And I said, everybody thinks the book's pretty good. He's nobody, so it must be a pretty good book. So I started reading it, and I read a little bit, and I put it down. I started thinking about it, and I read some more. And it took me about a day and a half to finish that book. And I wasn't ready for it to end when it was over. But I started telling myself, if this is a good book, if Catcher in the Rye is a good book, I can do that. It's nothing but a guy talking to himself, really is what it is. And I said, I can do that. And so I started writing my memoir, and I started remembering, and I would encourage all of you to write your memoir. Went down and I bought Catcher in the Rye. I was in Santa Fe and he was in Temple, Texas. He said, "Forrest, I just want you to know that I'm getting ready to take 50 sleeping pills. And I said, Dad, I'll be there first thing in the morning. I had an airplane. He said, that's too late. And it was too late. But I respected him because he wanted to do things on his own terms. What's wrong with making your own rules about things? He could have gone in the hospital and withered away for another 3 weeks or a month. That's no way to live. And all of these thoughts manifest themselves in my treasure chest. When I was a kid, I started making rules. When something significant would happen to me, I'd make a rule. And always my first rule, when I sold my gallery, I had 109 rules. Number one on the list was this: it doesn't matter who you are. It only matters who they think you are. That's how Andy Warhol got there. That's how Neiman Marcus got there. And I could go on and
Because you had said one of your lines from the book is that two men can keep a secret as long as one of them is dead.
That's an old mafia saying.
Yeah. Well, because you had said.
But tell me specifically how I can prove to you that I hid the treasure chest.
That you hid the treasure?
Huh?
Your words. I mean,
No, there's a way that I can prove it to you.
how? I don't know.
I've said that two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. I could take you out and show you the treasure chest.
But then you have to kill me?
I wouldn't want to be your insurance agent. I tripped over a grave marker. It was a stone grave marker, about 14, 15 inches wide. It was face down. And I didn't know what it was really, except there were a lot of aluminum grave markers around in the tall grass where I tripped. And I turned it over, and there was an inscription on it, a French soldier's name. And then in English it said, "If you should ever think of me when I have passed this veil and wish to please my ghost, forgive a sinner and smile at a homely girl." Wow. And one thing led to another. I came home 2 days later, and I didn't think much about it because the homecoming and being missing in action, those things took some of my time. But the secret of that thing crept back into my mind, and it changed my life over a period of the next couple of years.
Had you described this extraordinary experience that you had being shot down in this little valley with a waterfall and tripping over something?
What is the one thing all searchers are missing? You said there's one thing.
I don't. It's important to the story, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. The person I'm saving that for the person that finds the treasure.
Okay.
But it's significant, I think.
Clues that other people don't have.
Well, I don't know that he has any.
But I'm going to say this, that in what Forrest just said now, sitting in that chair, I believe a very significant clue was said. But I'm not going to say what it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this,
Let's
something
add a little
new.
mystery to this.
Something new.
When I was a kid, I started making rules. When something significant would happen to me, I'd make a rule. And always my first rule, when I sold my gallery, I had 109 rules. Number one on the list was this: it doesn't matter who you are. It only matters who they think you are. That's how Andy Warhol got there. That's how Neiman Marcus got there. And I could.
Does find the treasure. It is there. The chest and the contents are theirs, correct? They will own that treasure.
I said in my poem, I'd give you title to the gold.
Okay.
But there are a lot of subchapter S's to that rule too. But I don't want to go there.
Okay. What recommendation do you give to the finder? Do you think they should be public? Do you think they should remain anonymous?
I've said several times that if you find that treasure chest, put it under your bed and leave it there for 30 days without doing anything. There's a lot that you need to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of things. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. I spent $5,000 with an attorney researching what happens if it's found on private property, Indian land, government land being Bureau of Reclamation, Corps of Engineers, BLM, National Park Service, Forest Service. There's 20 of those things, and every one of them has a different rule. So it's not that easy, but it's certainly doable. And that's why I say put it under your bed and leave it for 30 days, because you need to think about every one of those things.
Now, when you have thought about that, there has been a lot of media recently of transitions of land from, let's say, BLM to a different type of land. Did you consider that when you when you worked so at the treasurer's on one type of land and it transitions to
I
a
don't want
different?
to go there.
Don't want to go there. Okay. So the fight.
But let me make one comment. If you rent a cabin on private property in northern New Mexico, it's sitting out there by itself. You rent it. What are you renting? You're renting a place to sleep. But are you renting the backyard? Are you renting the front yard? Can you use the barbecue pit out there? And if you can use those things, then that's your property, isn't it, for 24 hours? You see where this can go?
Well,